The reason of uploading chapter number 7 after chapter 2 is because somehow chapter 7 directly relates with chapter 2, and I feel it comfortable when I'm teaching my own students that I teach chapter 7 along with chapter number 2 because the concepts in both chapters are somewhat similar. And in order to understand these concepts, you have to teach both chapters together. So let's have a look what exactly chapter number 7 covers. It talks about market segmentation, which we have briefly talked about in chapter number 2. It also talks about targeting or market targeting, and it talks about differentiation and positioning concept. So I will go through these concepts again step by step because before we jump on to the 4 P's of marketing and developing a marketing plan, we need to understand these concepts in detail. The market segmentation is a process that companies use to divide a large market into a small market. So these two concepts are very important for you to understand. You can leave this heterogeneous market on one side at the moment, but once there is a huge market and you need to divide it into small markets, that process is called market segmentation. Now, why do we do it, or why do organizations do it? It is so that they can reach that market efficiently and effectively with products and services that they are offering. So they have a market offering, like we have studied before, and they have to offer that product or service or experience into a market. Now, that market is huge. There are children in it, there are women, there are men, there are old people in it. So you have to divide that market into small markets in order to target or in order to reach that market more efficiently and more effectively. So what do? You take the help of a process called market segmentation. Now, if you have a look at this particular picture in detail, in the middle, you are creating a value for your targeted customer. That's always your goal. So marketing, if you remember the definition of marketing, it is to create value for your customer. So that's what you're doing in the end. That's the goal. How are you doing it? First of all, you're selecting customers to serve, and it starts from segmenting the market, like we have spoken about it just before. So you divide total market into smaller segments, and out of those segments, you decide which segment to target because that particular segment is going to give you more benefit. And we will talk about this concepts in detail just in a while. Now, in terms of value proposition, in terms of what exactly that organization is offering customers, you take help of two different concepts. One is differentiation and one is positioning. Positioning, I'll start with this one. This is a bit easier concept. Positioning is the image of a particular product or service in the mind of a customer. And differentiation is that differentiating point, that point where you differentiate yourself, where you tell the customers that, look, this is our product and this is how it is different as compared to our competitor. And this is how it is better as compared to our competitor. The market segmentation is divided into 4 different things or 4 different topics. In this chapter, first one is, of course, segmenting consumer markets, then segmenting business markets, segmenting international markets. There are 3 different types of markets which you have to segment. And the last one is requirements for effective segmentation. So in terms of consumer markets, there are 4 different things, 4 different components on the basis of which you segment that. First of all is geographic, second is demographic, third is psychographic, and the fourth one is behavioral segmentation. Now, geographic segmentation, as the name suggests, it is on the basis of nations, regions, states, counties, cities, villages. So you, based on geographical location, you divide the market. So if you live in a country where the population is, let's say, 50 million, and you want to launch your product, so first of all, that's a consumer market. You will divide that particular market into smaller markets based maybe on cities, maybe on regions, maybe on states, maybe on villages, maybe on the basis of who lives in the cities and who lives in villages. And you will also use the concept of urbanization. So on the basis of that, you will use the geographic segmentation to divide that big market into smaller market. The demographic market, as the name suggests, is done on the basis of age, gender, family size, family life cycle, income, occupation, education, religion, race, generation, and nationality. So these are the main components of demographic segmentation. So you have a product in which you only need to segment market um, based on age. So you will go ahead and you will segment that market that we only want to offer this product to the people who fall in the age group of 18 to 24. All right. So that is called an age segmentation or age demographic segmentation. Income segmentation is a very important segmentation tool when you're segmenting a market, especially the consumer market, that you want to target a low income consumers or you want to target a high income consumer. Psychographic segmentation is actually a type of segmentation which divides the type of consumers into social class, lifestyle, and personality traits. For example, you have a restaurant and that restaurant is a funky type of restaurant, and you only want to attract people based on their social class and lifestyle. So you will go ahead and you will do or you will use psychographic segmentation in order to divide that big market of that city into smaller markets, and you develop your promotional strategies and your pricing strategies based on that. And behavioral segmentation depends on uses of a particular product, responses to a usage of a product, and knowledge, the attitudes of the customer, um, and all of that depends on the occasions, the benefits sought by using a particular product. The user status is a very important thing. How much each product is being used, that's called the usage rate, and loyalty status. I've seen Apple users, they're more loyal to their brands as compared to Samsung users. And there are so many other brands. For example, in terms of automobile, in terms of cars, there are people, especially in the European region, who only buy Mercedes as compared to BMW. And then there are people who prefer buying BMW as compared to Mercedes for their whole life. So I have a question for you, and think carefully. When marketeers they are selling a luxury car, they often use income as a segmenting variable. Now, income is one of a component of what type or which type of segmentation? Is it a geographic? Is it psychographic? Is it demographic, or is it behavioral? In my view, it is a demographic component which marketeers of selling a luxury car often uses. Now, let's talk about international market just in a very brief detail. What type of components or what type of tools do you use for segmenting? You use a geographic location, again, similar to consumer markets, where that country is located, where that market is located. If it is located in, let's say, China, uh, what is the significance of red color in China? And should you use the red color? Should you not use the red color? So that is actually segmenting international markets. You use the economic factor. That is related and similar to that income factor in terms of consumer markets. You use political legal factors. You see what is the political landscape of that particular country where you're moving, or that particular market. And you also look at the legal factors. Do they have legal duties of importing different things if your product is such that you need raw material from a different country? And so on. You review the legal factors associated with your particular product. And the last one is the cultural factor, which plays an important role when you're moving into a new market. That what exactly the culture of that country tells you. That if you want to launch a product, for example, there are certain products that you cannot launch into a lot of different countries. For example, you cannot launch a certain type of product into Muslim countries. If we move to a European countries, there might be some type of products that you cannot go ahead and launch simply in the European countries. For example, diesel cars. Uh, in Scandinavian countries, diesel cars are going to be completely obsolete in 2024. That's especially in Norway. That is what their strategy is. They are moving towards electrical cars. So at times, cultural factors are playing a role, economic factors are playing a role, political factors. So moving towards an electrical car in 2024 in Norway is a political decision which will affect the organizations that are manufacturing diesel cars and even gas-oriented or petrol-oriented cars. So what are the tools for to become a useful market segmenter? Because this is going to be one of the important role as a marketer which you will be doing in an organization. You need to make sure that the segmentation which you are doing that is useful for the organization. It has to be measurable. If you say that we are going to target people of this particular age, you need to make sure you have a data that is measurable. Then you have a data that is accessible. If the data is not accessible, of course, it is not useful for people who are making a marketing plan. So all of these things which you're doing, these are the steps of a marketing plan. So if you do not have a measurable, accessible, substantial also, then of course that data is not useful for that particular organization or for the people who are making marketing plan. It has to be differentiable. It has to be, for example, there are different components, and those different components should be highlighted in the data clearly so that the people who are reading it, they can make use of that particular data. And in the end, it has to be actionable. The data should not be just numbers. The data should be such that it is so effective that when you look at the data, on the basis of it, you can decide your pricing strategy, you can decide your promotional strategies, and on the basis of that, you can decide your marketing plan. So after market segmentation, we move to the next concept called market targeting. So what exactly and how is it different from market segments? The target market, they consist of a set of buyers who share common needs. Now this is the differentiating point. So there are a set of buyers, there are a set of consumers who share common needs or characteristics that the company decides to serve. Even though there are people who fall in the same age group, but they are different in terms of their attitudes, in terms of their income class, in terms of their social status. So the age group is same, that is a market segment of, let's say, 18 to 24. But based on their income, based on their social status, the company decides to serve those who have higher income or higher social status. So market segment based on their age is same, but the company decides that we are going to serve this particular market segment, and that is called the target market segment or target marketing. Now, how do you evaluate a market segment? You can evaluate it based on size and growth. That, for example, there's a bigger size of a market segment, you decide to go behind that, or sometimes it happens that you actually decide to go towards a smaller size. Even though it's a smaller size, but it has more growth chance, and you say that we will develop a product and we will target this particular segment because we feel that the growth rate of this segment is more as compared to the other one. You look at the segment attractiveness, how attractive that segment is. Sometimes the fashion brands, they use, even though there are so many people who fall into the age group of their segment, but they only target those customers who are more trendy as compared to the other ones. Now that market is more attractive to fashion brands, and that's why they target it. And they show that segment, or they show that target market also in their advertisement and promotional strategies. And in the end, this also plays a role. This point, you have to look at the company objectives and the resources. What exactly your company objectives are if you want to target a bigger market, irrespective of how attractive it is or how trendy it is. You will go ahead and you will focus it on segment size. So it really depends on what your company decides and what are the resources which your company has to spend on a marketing plan and its implementation. So these are the strategies of target marketing. Either you do a mass marketing strategy, either you do a segmented marketing. We'll talk about it just in a while. You do a niche marketing. I like this one a lot. Or you do a micro marketing where you so if we compare this with this particular one, the mass marketing one depends on the size of the market, and this one also depends on the size. Even this one. Now here you are targeting, or you're selling your product to a mass market, to maximum number of customers and consumers which you can achieve from a particular segment. Whereas in the micro marketing, you're selling your product to a very small number of customers because you feel that that small number of customers are more attractive as compared to that massive number in which you're selling the product. So, like I said before, it based on mass marketing, the undifferentiated marketing target. It focuses on the common needs rather than what is different for individual person. Whereas the differentiated market targets several different market segments and designs separate offers for each. And goal is to achieve higher sales and stronger position, more expensive than undifferentiated marketing. And the reason why it is more expensive is because you need to study the market more in detail rather than saying that we will target everyone in the age group of 18 to 24. You will go ahead and you will find out the data on the basis of other factors also, which I've taught in the market segments section. Concentrated markets or concentrated marketing targets a small share of a large market. Again, it uses limited company resources. It will only be implemented when you have a knowledge of the market, and it is more effective and efficient. Again, you have to do a lot of research before you target a concentrated market rather than undifferentiated one. And once you do that, it is more effective and efficient, and it's more useful as compared to targeting the mass market. Now, micro market, on the other hand, like I said before, it is also dependent on size. Now, micro market is a practice of tailoring product and programs or marketing programs to suit the taste of specific individuals and locations. For example, I'm a rich man and I like my furniture of a certain quality. It has to be a certain type of wood. It has to use a certain type of cloth which is made in France. It has to be of a certain color. And then in the end, it has to be a gold plated furniture if that is possible. So I'm an individual, I have money. There are luxury companies out there who develop an individual type of product. So what they use micro marketing. But this is, in my view, is one of the most difficult type of marketing which can be used because you need to have connections with individuals. Those individuals need to have access to certain amount of money, and that market has to be attractive in order for your company to sustain and survive in that particular market. So wrapping up the target marketing section, or target market section for that matter. So again, what it depends on your company resources. That's the most, again, important point. If your company doesn't have resources, you cannot target certain amount of markets, especially the micro markets. How variable your product is going to be, how much your product is going to be customized. For example, there are your type of product is such that it can easily be customized. So again, you have to choose a type of method to target or type of market to target where your product can be easily customized and you can target that specific market. How variable the market is, how market that specific market which you're choosing, how variable that is, because that directly affects your marketing strategy. And what are the competitive or competitors' marketing strategies in those markets? How competitors are offering their products for the same market where you are going to offer the product. One point which I really like in target marketing is social responsibility. You need to be socially responsible when you are marketing a specific segment or when you're marketing to a specific segment. For example, you cannot sell alcohol or cigarettes or internet abuses or certain type of products to children. So you need to be make sure that whatever market you're serving into, even though you are satisfying a need of a particular segment, but you need to make sure that it's socially responsible and ethically responsible. So we move towards the final concept of our chapter, which is differentiation and positioning. So let's have a look what exactly a position statement or a product position means. It is the way of the product, how it is defined by consumers on the basis of their important attributes. It can be the place of the product occupies in the consumer minds relative to competing products, perceptions, impressions, and feelings. This is a good definition. This is from the book. But in simple view, positioning is simply an image which stays in the mind of a customer. So I've given this example before in my lectures. Caterpillar has a certain image in your mind. Canon, which is a camera brand, it has a certain image. Nokia has had, not has actually, it had a certain image in your mind when you used to buy mobile phones 10, 15 years ago. BlackBerry again has a certain image in your mind. Toyota. So there are so many companies which actually have a separate image depending on how they have promoted their products in the past. So you attach that image to that product and you say that even in the future when I'm going to buy a product from Apple, that product is going to be of a certain quality, of a certain price. It is not going to be cheap. It is not going to be easily fixed, even though I'm an Apple lover. But still, at the end of the day, Apple products are not easily customized as compared to so many other companies who are making the product. So that's actually a positioning. And most of the time, marketeers they use positioning in order to promote their product, which actually is a good thing. So as a marketer, I also like that. Whereas the differentiation is actually the different type or different component or different parts of your product or services which differentiate between you and the competitors. So even though Samsung is making very good phones these days, but there was a time when Apple craftsmanship was much better as compared to Samsung. So that was a differentiating thing of Apple. And there are so many companies. If you look around, you will find companies that their product, as compared to their competitor or their competition, is different, and they create that product based on that. So, for example, there are different types of differentiation. You can either make your product different, you can make your service different. So, every airline is flying their customer, but their services are different. You can either do a channel differentiation. For example, in some countries, especially in South America, Pepsi is available more than Coca-Cola. But in some countries, Coca-Cola is more available as compared to Pepsi. So you can do a channel difference. A channel is basically the place of the product in which where you are selling your product at. You can do a people differentiation or you can do an image differentiation. Image again relates directly to what? Positioning. Now, this is something which is very close to my heart, and I always say this thing that choosing the positioning is very easy when you're making a marketing plan document. You say that, oh, you know what, this is how we are going to be different. But in reality, when you go ahead and you try to implement that position, it is not that easy. For example, in this example, you see Dunkin' Donut and Starbucks coffee. Both of the companies they offer coffee. Now, how are they different? And what exactly is the image of Starbucks as compared to Dunkin' Donuts? For example, in my view, it's a confusing thing, but in my view, Dunkin' Donuts is more related to highways as compared to Starbucks. Starbucks, on the other hand, in my view, is more related to university campuses or office buildings. So you really need to find out the right spot. How are you going to position your particular product? So again, it is easier said than being done, and it takes a lot of time in order to develop a position statement or positioning or an image in the mind of consumers. So before I finish off this particular chapter, let's have a look on a couple of questions. What is the first step in target marketing? Is it market positioning, where you set image of a particular product? Is it segmenting the market first? Is it target marketing itself is the first step, or is it none of the above? In my view, it is market segmentation. So you have the market segments, and then you select a particular target market. And the second question is, which of the following steps of target marketing takes into account of competitors' offerings to the market? Market segmentation, market positioning, market targeting, or all of the above? In my view, it is market positioning.